Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Remember, if you love film, gaming, or television content, please consider clicking that subscribe button because today I have my blue setup going because we are going to be talking about Avatar: The Way of Water. So, let's get into it. So I think, like me, a lot of you have been very excited to see this film. For me, this and Babylon are the two films I've been most excited about seeing all year. This is an Avatar stan channel, okay? We are Avatar fans here. I absolutely adore the first film. I've seen it many times, and every time I see it, I get blown away. For a film that is so reliant on visual effects, it has aged surprisingly well. And I felt like it was just one of those definitive blockbusters that I actually remember the hype that happened when it came out. It's so wild because when the first one came out, I was 11, and it's just such a crazy thing how much time has passed since that last one.
You're getting old.
Now, let's get into this film. I mean, it's pretty amazing. At the Oscars, there is always one big technical contender that just gets a bunch of nominations. Last year it was Dune. This year it will certainly be Avatar: The Way of Water. The reason James Cameron movies seem to make more money than what exists on Earth at that time is because he is someone that just constantly innovates. The first Avatar utilizes visual effects that are at such a high quality and standard that it became one of those landmark films, and man, it looks so much better than most films that are reliant on that kind of technology. Avatar: The Way of Water does a similar thing. Of course, you don't even need to see the film to know that this is going to be technically ahead of its time by at least 5 years minimum. I did not see a 3D screening. I intend to because it is so cool that a film has a focus on 3D again. Not since the first one have I seen this many people excited for a 3D movie. I wanted to watch a regular screening first because for a 3-hour movie, I know I would not be feeling the most comfortable in a 3D setting, and that could ultimately hurt my enjoyment for the film. But I mean, damn, everything that featured water in this movie is immaculate. Pandora just looks so much better than real life. It's just insane. In terms of world building, we just don't get anything like this very often. And the fact that James Cameron can build off one of the greatest worlds introduced into cinema is incredible. The water isn't just there to be pretty though. It actually helps tell the story and provide some of the messaging. Both Avatar films give us a lot of messaging about how important our connection to nature and the environment is, and the damage that humans can cause. This goes into the way humans have treated fish with things like spearfishing and how we are just this destructive force. And to me, that is some of the most powerful stuff in Avatar and Avatar: The Way of Water. The story itself, while not the most ambitious, is a fairly good ride. We get introduced to a new colony of Na'vi who have a different way of life compared to the ones we are used to, and Jake and his family have to make those necessary adjustments. The story surprisingly doesn't focus on either Jake or Neytiri anymore. They kind of take backseats to their kids, which is where some of the criticism that I will have for this movie will come in. They do have their moments that definitely did blow me away, but there are other times where they came off a little cringy and were kind of hard to connect with at times. However, that wasn't always the case. There are quite a few moments, as I just mentioned, that blew me away, and they had these characters as the central focus in those scenes. I think the high points of this film are mainly in the second act, and that is where this is solely focused on world building and character development rather than action, and those moments were just so gripping to a point that made this feel like a genuine film of the year candidate for me. I know it's the cool thing to say, oh, we don't care about Sully and Neytiri, but come on, they are some really interesting characters, and how good they are show here when we start taking the focus off them. Some of the cringiness comes from the writing department. I don't think James Cameron is the greatest writer in general. The first Avatar definitely had those weird moments of dialogue, but usually I can really excuse it because the scope of what is being built and the fact that he can still give you such an emotional connection to the story overshadows those moments a ton. I just felt a little too often in this that James Cameron hasn't spoken to a real child in years, because the way they talk to each other, always saying, "Come on, bro," or "Come on, cuz," every 5 seconds felt a bit dumb. That is probably my largest criticism with this movie, because when we go back to focusing on some of our adult characters that were in the first one, the story becomes super engaging, and certainly more engaging than your average blockbuster. Neytiri, to me, played by Zoe Saldana, wins the MVP for this movie. She kills it in the time that she has, especially in the third act. Sam Worthington as Jake is also excellent. His arc is very simple and it is utilized very effectively within the film. Stephen Lang as the Colonel is also really good. He seems to become a lot more of a three-dimensional character in this, and I appreciated that a lot. Another question here is, does this justify its 3-hour runtime? Man, I feel like a broken record with these long-ass movies. It's exhausting. But I do feel like my two most anticipated movies in Avatar: The Way of Water and Babylon would be the two movies to actually pull off that runtime. I think Avatar mostly does. It earns that epic runtime because it's an epic movie. The scope of this is just on another level. There are modern day blockbusters, and then there's this. The wonder that this fills you with, alongside its innovative cinematography, are just insane. However, I don't think this needed to be 3 hours. There is definitely some filler things in here. As much as I love Jermaine Clement as someone who adores Flight of the Conchords and is born in New Zealand, to see him in such a huge movie is amazing. But the sections with him and Brendan Cowell could have been almost cut out of this film entirely. There are a couple of scenes that I think justify being in there, but there are also a whole lot that just felt like filler to me. There is a large stretch of this film where these characters are almost the sole focus, and it did feel a bit boring and it hurt the pacing overall. Man, I know there is a lot of criticism here, but the overall point I am trying to make here is that I don't think it is quite as good as the first, and people who don't like the first Avatar, this sequel is not going to win you over. But for me, as a massive Avatar fan, I did really enjoy this, and I will most definitely be watching this again. I cannot wait to buy a 4K of this. It's going to be a movie that you're going to show off when you get a new TV, 100%. And also, when the story hits its high points, it is very emotional and gut-wrenching at times. But at the same time, it also hits you with such incredible imagery combining with its score that is almost tear-inducing, because yes, the imagery is that good. Overall, I highly recommend Avatar: The Way of Water. While overall I think it is a small step back from the first, it is still a knockout film that I am so happy exists. It feels like I was waiting for this forever, and I can't believe I've actually seen it now. Try and watch this on the biggest screen possible. I mean, I don't really need to tell you that. It's kind of a no-brainer. And hopefully you get a good audience, not a pack of dickheads that I got in my screening. I'm going to give Avatar: The Way of Water a strong 4.5 out of 5. You have no idea how much I wanted this to be a 5 out of 5. But there are just too many things for me to criticize that aren't just criticisms for you. They're ones that I genuinely thought affected my personal experience with the movie. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Tell me in the comments below, if you've seen it already, what you think of Avatar: The Way of Water, and try to avoid spoilers. Some people have been waiting for this for a while and they might not get the chance to see it for another week or so. So definitely be mindful of that in the comments. I think that overall, this film will have a similar discourse to the first. Plenty of hipsters going, "Oh my god, that was so overrated and a bad movie just copying Ferngully," but yet be the first people to line up and see this like, okay buddy, sure. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.